What's up, big boy?
What's up, fellas?
What's your take on the Steph Diggs story, and what do you know?
Quite frankly, I don't really care. I mean, look, it's a little bit of a distraction, but as far, capital offense, we don't know what was in it. And let's just, the big thing is that the NFL has completely changed. A couple of years ago, they completely changed how they deal with street drugs. You never hear about suspensions, positive tests, anything like that. Like, a lot of it is fines. You have to be in the program. Like, there's a bunch of different steps. So even if it's the worst case scenario, let's say the NFL calls him for a drug test, even though we don't even know what he was doing, and he fails tomorrow, it's like a $15,000 fine. So look, I think that Vrabel was visibly annoyed by it. He should be. This is exactly the type of thing that you don't want from a veteran that you brought in. But this is part of the Steph Diggs diva receiver experience. Like, they're gonna do their own thing at times, and you just hope he gets to the camp and gets to the season and keeps the distractions off the field to a minimum.
Okay, so you say you don't know what it is, but when he tells the girls don't take all of it, what do you think that's implying?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. So let's just go into the assumption it's.
I haven't even watched it. I mean, I haven't even listened to the video, so I'm not going to comment on something I have absolutely no clue about.
So I agree with you in and of itself in a vacuum. Even if it is illicit drugs, I'm not bothered by it, just as a one-off, okay? That's not my issue. My issue is, and if I were the Patriots, and the question is, would you be concerned about where he is and how he's carrying himself at this stage of his career and what his investment is at this stage of his career?
I mean, possibly. I mean, all I can go on is, what I heard from, people in Houston on how he was in the building there, until the injury, and everybody raves about him and raved about his impact on and the time he spent with the young receivers on the team. I mean, look, to me, this is, sort of typical behavior, not just of receivers in the NFL, but, this stuff goes on a lot, but you just hope that there's not a video around.
If Houston raved about him so much, why'd they let him go?
I think they because Diggs wanted a lot of money and was coming back from ACL, and they weren't desperate.
I think he was under contract, wasn't he? Or was he on a one-year deal? Did his contract expire?
Yeah. I thought it expired, but I could be wrong about that.
Me too. Okay. So anything else, Mazz? You have a follow-up on that?
So, Greg, when you say that he was, I'm talking about Vrabel now, that he was visibly annoyed or whatever word you used. What would you think is the source of his annoyance?
Just that they're trying to build something here, and from talking to people around the team, they're making a lot of good progress. They're getting, for the most part, people in here that are their type of guys to build this program, and they thought that Diggs was one of those guys, and he still probably will be ultimately. But for a guy that you're looking to be one of the leaders on this team, especially in a room that needs it, this is just the stuff you just don't need in May. And Diggs should know better than that. And Mike talked about, making great decisions. I think we can draw from that he did not think this was a very good decision at all.
Okay, Greg Bedard, Boston's Barstool, joining us. He's down in Foxborough after their OTA today. What else did you see? And I'll just start with Drake Maye coming off the 4 interceptions the last time. What'd you see today?
It was better. I mean, he didn't have an interception. He had a fumbled snap with Garrett Bradbury at one point. I thought that Maye pulled away a little bit quick, but I could be wrong. The two are getting used to each other. I would say offensively, especially when Maye was out there, it was uneven. It was an improvement from last week. I will say today was a little bit different. As far as the quote-unquote team periods, May's first two sessions, to me, I thought those for Dobbs and May, I thought those were deceptive periods where they were working on quick game screens, things like that. They weren't quite, 11-on-11 team situations. The last two were, and as Vrabel noted in his press conference, they were not going off a script today. This was a little bit more of just riffing it, and Josh McDaniels calling plays from probably a very limited play sheet, but it was another step in development. I will say from discussions with people around the team, I know there was a lot of concern about May last week and the 4 interceptions when they were there. From what I heard, the Thursday session after that, he absolutely lit it up. And today was not that. Dobbs clearly had the better day, made more plays down the field, but I do think it's just part of the normal learning in May.
When you say Dobbs, you mean Josh Dobbs?
Yeah, the backup that they signed, the Pastronaut. Yeah, he made a couple plays down the field, one to Kyle Williams, a couple to Javon Baker. I will say Baker had a long play, but he completely shoved Marcellus Dial. Like as the ball was about to get there, totally. It would have been an offensive pass interference if there were refs on the field. And, of course, Javon Baker runs all the way down the field while the offense is huddling up. He's flexing to the defensive backs who are telling him he pushed off, and Vrabel basically had to tell him to get his butt back in the huddle because they were waiting to run another play while Javon Baker was gallivanting around the field. So, so just another part of the Javon Baker experience.
Okay, but I'll get back to that. Josh Dobbs clearly had a better day.
Yeah, I mean, the stats that I had May 9 of 15, Dobbs was 10 of 15, but he made plays down the field. May didn't really make many plays down the field. When he did, they were mostly to Hunter Henry in the seam. But don't go all Felger and Mazz on this. That Josh Dobbs had a better day.
I didn't say anything.
I mean, look, yeah, right. Yeah, I know where you're going with that, and I know where Jim's going with that.
I'm just following up. You said I was just following up to get a
Wait, let me get this straight. Josh Dobbs had a better day than Drake Maye. Is Jimmy going to clip that and play it for the rest of the week?
Yep.
Would you rather us go Bedard and Cattles on that or what?
Greg, do you feel that Maye is hesitant with the offense? Is the hitch still there, as you mentioned last week? And some people, down there, and it would be my takeaway too, that he's working his way through a new offense. Did you sense any of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's going on. It's to be expected. We have a frame of reference with Drake Maye from, when he went through this last year with, Alex Van Pelt. I mean, it was, it took him to, he's a little bit different place, but, it took him until basically, what was the Giants preseason game or Eagles preseason game, where then he started to feel more comfortable and cutting it loose. And it's the same sort of thing. And, yes, the hitch is there. And, yes, it annoys me. But it seems like from what we saw him go through last year, this is just part of his process where he's, thinking through things. But that is completely normal for a very young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback in a new offense.
The hitch is back.
How'd the receivers look? These guys were looking at a clip where – what'd you see in the clip?
The first time it was to Baker and Polk, the ball clanged right off their hands. How'd they look today?
So Polk, I don't, he's just working on the side. He's not in team. I will say that, they probably don't have video. That was probably during individual or whatever. Baker had a decent day in team. I will say Kyle Williams, the play of the day was Josh Dobbs deep down the right sideline to Kyle Williams. The rookie, what I really liked was he got on top of the cornerback. I think it was Miles Battle. And, he beat him around towards the sideline, and then sort of in a veteran way, he stacked the cornerback behind him, and then Dobbs threw it sort of towards the sideline, and he made a really nice over-the-shoulder catch. So, Williams, I'm impressed by. I think that, guys like Javon Baker, they have an uphill battle. I mean, there's guys, like that undrafted free agent Chisholm, again, showed up today a couple of different times. And so, there's going to be a real battle going on for a lot of these roster spots. And a lot of it's going to have to do with, are you doing the right things? Are you smart enough to function in this offense? If not, the Patriots feel like they have some people who are ready to do that.
What's the O-line look like, left to right?
I can't get into that specifically because I was tasered last week, thanks to you reading my reporting on the air. But I will say this.
You're not allowed to say who's lined up left to right?
Nope.
Okay.
That is a violation of the rules on the back of the roster. But I will say, I would say normal stuff, what you would expect. Morgan Moses was back in the mix today at the position that he's played almost his entire NFL career. I will say probably the most notable thing was Tyrese Robinson, a guy who they picked up off of the Vikings practice squad last year, got a lot of run at probably the one spot that we think that there's a lot of competition left to be had on the offensive line.
Okay, we got it. Left guard, I would assume, would be that, or is that a Wenner's right guard?
No,
right?
he's right guard. Yeah.
Wenner's right guard. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Anything else we need
Greg got tasered.
Must have been a pretty large device. I'll just say that.
Like a cattle prod.
Anything else we need to know, big boy?
I was very impressed today with how the defense is working, the movement that if you watch Vrabel's defense in Tennessee, it's not surprising, but how the defensive line and their movement plays off the linebackers and their movement. And so, I thought there was a decent amount of pressure today. I thought that Will Campbell had a couple of plays that he probably wants back, but on the whole, solid and, making progress. And I'm trying to think what else.
Well,
no Carlton Davis today. So
give me another couple of words on Will Campbell. Are you impressed?
Not without pads. But I will say he moves really well. Smart player, especially when Morgan Moses was out there. Really liked how Moses was sort of pointing out, possible blitzers and things like that. There's a lot of communication going on all over the place, and it looks pretty good so far. I mean, I wouldn't say there were some free rushers today, for sure, but that's sort of to be as expected as they're, they don't have some of their starters. They're working some people in, all that stuff.
So, Greg, last week we made a big deal out of his shoulders or lack thereof about how narrow he looks. Does he look that way to you?
Yeah, without question. I mean, I didn't think it was breaking news. If you've seen him, if you saw him at the combine, at the podium, or on the field, I would say it's the coupling of the arm length with. It's not just the arm length. It's the arm length with the wingspan. That's what makes Will Campbell such an anomaly. And like I don't know if we've talked about it, but I think I would be surprised if he's a career left tackle. I was fine with the pick because he improves the Patriots and at least gets you by for a season or two where hopefully you find something better. Maybe he kicks inside and, he's a great guard. But, I do think his physical limitations are going to be real. But I do think he's going to get a lot of tests on the schedule. I did a column about this, sort of predicting the Patriots' wins and losses, and I went through each of the matchups that Will Campbell is going to have, and he's going to get tested. He's going to get tested a lot in the preseason, the joint practices. You'll see Dietrich Wise and his super long arms, with the Commanders, and there are going to be some tough matchups. Especially, there's a lot of matchups like with the Steelers and a couple other teams where the Browns, Myles Garrett, those guys are going to be lining up over Morgan Moses.
Okay,
Max Crosby in the opener. they're going to have to give Morgan Moses. They're going to have to take care of those guys, and Will Campbell's going to have to go on his own very early in his NFL career.
In that column projecting the season, didn't you have the Patriots with 11 wins?
I did.
Okay.
11-6.
So it turns out Steph Diggs is not the only one who's going to be drug tested this week by the authorities. The big boy.
Me and Big Jim.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's got the pink pixie sticks at his house too. Don't
okay. So Greg thinks the Steph Diggs things is a big nothing burger. They better hope. I'm not willing to go there yet. It could be the first sign of a guy that's not all there. And
I'm shocked that you would have this opinion.
Well, it's just being fair. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't look at that and go, wow, he's dialed in, loaded for bear. He's ahead of schedule. Expect him on day one, guns blazing.
When has Diggs ever been dialed in and ready to go? And why do you think he's been on so many teams?
Well, okay. Well, thank you. Well, that I buy, but I always thought he was a competitive guy, like sort of post. Does he have a history of not posting? Does he have a history of not being professional or, these sort of things? I thought he just ran hot. What was his
You can
deal?
ask the Buffalo people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, thanks for the time, big fella.
Anytime.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Watch out for the tasers.